What's going on, everybody? This is Marcus, X-Men 97, Part 2, Tolerance is Extinction, Episode 9. Wow, they did it. They finally did it. I actually dread this day that they were going to actually put this in animation adaptation. But let you guys know, this is definitely a spoiler warning for anyone that hasn't seen X-Men 97 episode 9, which is the recent episode. And for those who have seen it, you know what I'm talking about. And for those who haven't seen it, you can go back and watch the episode on Disney Plus. And then, of course, all 9 episodes are streaming on Disney Plus. You can check them out anytime. And of course, episode 10 is going to be the final episode of this season. And I have a really great idea of where they're going to go with this, though. So, again, this is a spoiler warning. So, this is my take on it. So, we're going to go ahead and get right into it. But before I get started, thank you guys so much for supporting me. It really means a lot to me and supporting my channel. And for those who are new to my channel, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And then, of course, shout out to my friends here at Second and Charles. They're really great people, so thank you for the set as well. So, let's go ahead and get right to it. So, episode 9 pretty much picks up where episode 8 leaves off. We do see Professor Charles Xavier coming back from being absent for so long after his relationship with Alandra, especially being with the Shi'ar Empire. We see the X-Men regroup as they're trying to figure out what's going on and what's happening between the relations between humans and mutants. It's actually getting at an all-time high. The intensity is actually getting really intense. We see Bastian working for Operation Zero Tolerance. Of course, he's the head of Operation Zero Tolerance. And then we actually see the humans actually turning into hybrid Sentinels or hybrid Nimrods thanks to Bastian's work as well. So it's getting really bad. And so the only hope left are the X-Men. And of course, Magneto actually left the team, and we actually see the tension moments between Xavier and Magneto, so it gets really versatile too. But after the X-Men are regrouping, they're trying to figure out their next steps, and we actually do see some really great moments too, because the X-Men are donning their classic suits, especially from Giant Size X-Men issue 1. And then, of course, if you're familiar with Pride of the X-Men, which was the 1989 pilot which aired on television, and then of course it only had just 1 episode, so it was considered to be an unaired pilot, but it's a pilot nonetheless, which was setting up an X-Men animated series, although we wouldn't get an X-Men animated series until 3 years later, which was in 1992. And so this particular episode actually has the X-Men donning their classic suits, so it's actually really cool to see. But one thing I want to talk about is the fact that, as far as like the surprise element, is that Magneto actually finally did it too. And what I mean by that, especially for anybody that's familiar with the lore, we actually do see an adaptation of Fatal Attractions where Wolverine's adamantium bones was ripped off from Magneto. So Magneto actually took Logan's body and then took out his adamantium bones, which was gory when I saw it as a little kid reading the comics over the years. But we're gonna get right into it though. So basically what happened is that, just to make a long story short, the X-Men were rallying, and then Professor Xavier was talking to President Kelly about their next move, how they were going to ease the tension between human and mutant relations. And so there was a scene where Magneto and his base, Asteroid M, actually lands on Earth. He confronted the X-Men, and then Xavier and Magneto had their tit for tat about how Xavier's plan was to stop Bastian, and Bastian was the one that was behind the whole ordeal anyway, especially with his organization that he founded, Operation Zero Tolerance. And so, of course, it's going back to the old arguments that took place in 60 years with Xavier and Magneto of who's right and who's wrong. And even though the last episode actually does have Magneto saying Magneto was right, which of course was a statement that was actually elaborated by Valerie Cooper, that Magneto was right as far as like his take on what he wanted to do by trying to follow Xavier's dream of humans and mutants coming together in peace and living in harmony. But in Magneto's case, especially what had happened in Genosha in previous episodes, where the mutant massacre is actually based on the original comic, where all the mutants were slaughtered as well, though. So, and of course, I still miss Gambit. So, but I have a feeling that Gambit's going to come back as far as like being the Horseman of Apocalypse. But I'll get to that theory after my synopsis, though. So, what we see here is that besides the confrontation, Rogue actually was wearing Gambit's jacket because she still, was mourning Remy's loss. And then she had a tense moment with the other X-Men, and Storm was telling her that you can't abandon family. And Rogue was saying to all the other X-Men that you guys weren't there when Genosha happened. So, and then she ends up flying with Magneto, and then we see Sunspot, Roberto da Costa, who actually has a thing with Jubilee. He actually was siding with Magneto as well, because in the previous episode, his mom, who was over the Da Costa Industries, along with her husband, of course, she sold Sunspot and Jubilee to Bastion's minions. And of course, they were saying that Bastion's minions were trying to not only kill the mutants, but just to apprehend them and try to get them back in order. And so the fact that his own mother sold him out, you can practically understand his point of view of where he was coming from with his own mother selling you out. Because like, imagine if your own flesh and blood sold you out to a particular company or a particular organization just to save face. How would you feel? So it was like a sort of abandonment. And so you can pretty much see Sunspot's point of view and why he would side with Magneto in the first place. And so Magneto actually has Rogue and Sunspot going together. They're going back to Asteroid M's base, and then the X-Men are going to reunite and stop Magneto's plan before it gets out of hand. So they actually don their costumes, of course, and then there was a good bit of a conversation between Cyclops and Cable, which actually goes back to X-Men 2000, where I love that moment too, and that reference to the movie and the scene where Cyclops told Cable, what did you expect? Black leather? Giving him his iconic blue and yellow alternate costume that Cable actually wears. And of course, it's a reference to X-Men 2000, where the X-Men were going to head up with Magneto to stop him, and they were going to have their final battle at the Statue of Liberty in New York, where Wolverine was wearing his black leather costume. He was like, you guys fighting these things? And Cyclops was like, well, who would you prefer? Yellow spandex. So it was actually a great callback to that, though. So it was kind of like more of an insult because of the fact that people have actually talked about the costumes and how like there's opinions about like which costumes are better, like the bright costumes or the black leather. So it was only mixed opinions about that, but I've heard people have actually told me they actually prefer the yellow costumes or the bright colors instead of the black costumes, though. But obviously they were trying to go with the new X-Men costumes approach, so I can practically see that as well, though. So, but it was a great reference, though. So anyway, the X-Men were going to Asteroid M. They were getting ready to fight Magneto, and so while the tensions were getting high, Xavier was with them, and then of course he shut down, well, he actually entered into Magneto's mind the first time, and Cyclops uses optic blast to blast him, and man, the unthinkable and the inevitable actually happened. So we see Wolverine launching to Magneto, he stabs him in the chest, and then out of the blue, Magneto actually snapped and then used magnetic powers to take out the adamantium of Wolverine, and that shot ended right there. That was a perfect ending for that too. And man, like, if you read the comics, you definitely know what I'm talking about, because it's one of the most It was one of the most tense and gory scenes in comic history for sure. And if you think about it like this, back in 1993, where Fatal Attractions actually was first published, like superheroes, especially the popular ones like Superman, Batman, and Wolverine, those are the three main heroes that were catching it for sure. Because 1993 was the same year that Doomsday killed Superman. Of course, it was months prior to 1993, but still, Superman was gone at that particular time. Nightfall actually happened, where Bane breaks Batman's back, which was kicked off Nightfall. And then we have Magneto ripping off Wolverine's adamantium bones. And that practically set Wolverine to, it damaged him as far as like his identity goes. So that year was just crazy. And just being a lifelong comic book fan, like especially reading these issues when I was a kid, it just I wouldn't say it scarred me, but it kind of led me to know what was actually going to happen next, and I was anticipating it. But just issues like that was kind of like why I got into this in the first place, though. But especially as a little kid, but just seeing images like that, you're thinking like, wow, what can come next? And I actually felt for Wolverine too, especially one of my all-time heroes, being, of course, the list goes on and on with all the heroes that I like, but Superman, Batman, and Wolverine, like the three main heroes, they were the ones that were catching it too. So it was a pivotal point for both Marvel and DC, but it was also a pivotal point for Wolverine's identity as well, though, as far as like what was going to happen and what he was going through and the trauma that's going to go behind it. So hopefully the next episode that's going to happen Wednesday, it's going to definitely conclude the season, but it's also setting up for the second season as well, which of course is what they're working on. And then X-Men 97 season 3 is actually been greenlit as well, though. So this next season, my take on it, Onslaught's coming. Onslaught is definitely going to play a pivotal role in X-Men 97. Of course, he plays a pivotal role in the comic book lore as well, because Onslaught first appeared in X-Men number 52 in 1996. And it basically is that Onslaught is a representation of the negative emotions of Charles Xavier and Magneto. And what that is that both Magneto and Xavier have different point of views of how mutant-human relations should take place. And so Xavier has always had built up frustrations, especially with his dream. And he's a good man as far as like his role is concerned, but he's also had his moments as well, though. So just those views alone, especially with Magneto, just brought Xavier's point of view as far as like his emotions, and it just brought down Xavier. And you can see elements in the comic book lore to where Xavier was getting frustrated and wondering where he was going to go. And then if you think about it like this too, Onslaught also plays a pivotal role in all the sagas as well, though. So, and the thing is that it's so exciting because we actually do get a chance to see Onslaught in animation form, which I can't wait. And of course, Onslaught is a final boss in Marvel vs. Capcom Clash of the Heroes as well. So I'm actually excited to see what they're going to do with this too, though. But my take is that Onslaught is going to be the next villain, and episode 10 is going to conclude where Xavier is going to actually use his telepathic powers to put Magneto in a catatonic state like he actually did in the comics. And that's gonna be crazy because he was on the verge of doing it in the last episode, but Cyclops stopped him. But after what happened to Logan, all bets are off. And technically speaking, that's actually what Xavier told Magneto. And man, every episode of X-Men 97 always leaves me at the edge of my seat, especially predicting everything that's going to happen, like especially what's happening next. Like nerds like myself and fans like myself are anticipating what's going to happen next, though. So, but yeah, Onslaught's coming for sure, and I definitely can't wait to see where they're going to go with this too. Like the story mode is incredible in the game, but as far as like the writing goes in this series, it's been nothing but phenomenal. I'm enjoying it so far, and I definitely can't wait to see what the next season is going to hold as well, though. But they're going to keep this going as far as like the seasons are going to go, and taking elements from the comic book lore and putting it into animated adaptations. So I'm definitely excited for that, though. So, and then of course we could get a live action or animated version of X-Men versus Avengers as well. And I mentioned this previous times as well, that we can definitely see that as far as like what happened when Rogue confronted Captain America, and then she threw Captain America's shield, she needed Cap's shield, and just the relations between both heroes, because we understand that the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, and Shield, they're celebrated by the public. But the X-Men have always been misunderstood by the public because of their mutant powers and what they represent. They're heroes as well, but from the public's eye, they're considered to be an anomaly. And so they're able to explore those elements, especially the many times that they actually clash in the comics as well, though. So, but they're not as celebrated as the Fantastic Four, Shield, or the Avengers, who are publicly loved as well, though. So, but, and of course, we're putting in Spider-Man as well, because even though Spider-Man could be a hero to the kids, he can also be an anomaly to the public as well, though, especially with the public trusting the media, like the Daily Bugle, of course, with J. Jonah Jameson always slandering Spider-Man's name every chance that he gets. And so that's the reason why the team-ups of X-Men and Spider-Man are always special, because Spidey can relate to the X-Men or the mutant cause in general, because he understands what it's like to be misunderstood as well, though. So that can pretty much be an encapsulation of how you can portray it, and even in the real world and everything. So, but other than that, I love X-Men 97. It's definitely one of my favorite series. It's definitely one of the best series I've seen so far, especially in Marvel animation or in the MCU in particular. So, and then considering that Deadpool and Wolverine is coming up soon, we could definitely see more adaptations in this series as well, though. So, but Bastion, of course, is definitely one of the main bad guys. I'm curious to see how his saga is going to conclude for episode 10 of Wednesday that's coming up. And of course, I know everybody's been speculating that Cassandra Nova was going to show up, but that's not going to happen based on the title alone, with it being called Tolerance is Extinction, because E for Extinction, of course, is Cassandra Nova's first appearance in the comics. But then, of course, with that going on, that didn't even happen. But we do have a chance to see being Cassandra Nova actually being portrayed by Emma Norris coming out for Deadpool and Wolverine. So that I'm definitely excited for sure, though. So I think that Emma Corrin's going to do a really great job with portraying Cassandra Nova, because she's a twin sister of Charles Xavier. So I'm definitely excited for that as well, though. So, and of course, she's awesome in Game of Thrones as well, though. So I'm definitely excited for that, though. So, but as far as like if she's going to appear in later seasons, I think she will. I believe that once the Onslaught saga concludes, or when they get into the middle of it, we'll definitely see what's going to happen afterwards as well, though. But yeah, now that's my theory as far as where they're going with this, though. But considering that I've read the comic book lore as far as like what's happening next, because we actually do see an Easter egg where Xavier was wearing Magneto's helmet, and my first thought was they're gonna do it, like Onslaught's coming, and that little bit of a nod right there, that's actually a good call out too, though. So again, for anybody that's familiar with the comics, that's what's going to happen. And then of course you can always read the comics anytime you want to, especially if you have the Marvel Unlimited app, which you can read all the comics from every generation. It's got like 33,000 comics online, so it's pretty cool, though. So, but man, I'm excited. And like I said, I have the Onslaught series in my comic collection, and I have Marvel vs. Capcom Clash of the Heroes, where Onslaught is the main villain, the final boss, and that's a great game. I love that game a lot. So, but yeah, But I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen for episode 10, the season finale. I'm looking forward to talking about it with you guys and give you guys my take on it. But I'm definitely excited for this, you guys. This is a great series. I'm enjoying it. Each episode always leaves me at the edge of my seat, and so I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen Wednesday, which is going to be the season finale of X-Men 97. And so hopefully it's going to be like 50 minutes long, because this previous episode was about 30 minutes long, close to 40, but about 30 minutes practically. But I believe the season finale is going to be a lot longer, so hopefully it'll be about 50 minutes long. So we'll definitely see how it's going to go though. But man, you guys, I am so excited for this series, you guys. It's going to be amazing. And on top of that, where they're going to go with this, as far as like what's happening next, it's going to be amazing. So, but Onslaught's definitely coming. Xavier's going to snap in episode 10. I have a feeling that nothing's good is going to come out of it as well though. So yeah, that's where they're going to go with this too. And if, of course, me being a lifelong comic book fan, if you're a comic book fan, you know where it's going to go. But man, that's why I'm here, you guys, to give you guys all the details and my opinions of where they're going to go with this as well though. So, but yeah, I'll give this episode a 10 out of 10. This series is a 10 out of 10. I definitely am enjoying X-97. So it's definitely one of my favorite series, and is one of the best ones, as best animated adaptations as well, especially going back to the original X-Men 92 lore as well though. So, but man, I can't wait. I did call this though, that Onslaught was coming, and then Wolverine's adamantium bones was going to come out, because when head curator Beau DeMayo said to read X-Men Fatal Attractions number 23, I was like, no way, they're gonna do it. They're actually going to rip off Wolverine's adamantium bones, and then knowing how scarred he's going to be throughout the whole ordeal, because the comic book lore, like, his whole appearance actually changed. So of course he started growing out bones instead of his adamantium claws, and then of course he was starting to look feral, so feral Wolverine's coming as well. So, and then his nose was gone too, and I was like, wow, Wolverine was falling on hard times, especially in the 90s for sure. But having that adaptation in real life form is going to be something else for sure though. So, but man, I felt for Logan, and just that graphic alone, especially that shot in the comics, that's alone is iconic but also terrifying at the same time too though. So, but I'm anxious and curious to see what's going to come next, especially for this episode and how they're going to end it. So it's gonna be awesome. I'm also looking forward to future seasons as well, so hoping that Gambit does come back, but more than likely he's going to come back. And I've been saying this a lot too, but Gambit's going to come back, I believe, as a Horseman of Apocalypse. So somehow he's going to serve Apocalypse, because of course in the past Gambit has had many affiliations. Before he joined the X-Men, of course, Gambit was a member of the Thieves Guild of Assassins. And then in the retcon, he was actually part of Mr. Sinister's Marauders in the comics, of course, during the Mutant Massacre. And then he ends up joining the X-Men. So despite Remy's past, he has a good heart, and he actually loves being with the X-Men. Of course, he ends up marrying Rogue in X-Men Gold that came out in 2018 as well, which is my favorite arc. So hopefully they can actually adapt the issue where Gambit and Rogue will finally get married, and then they'll be able to have their happily ever after. So, but I am looking forward to Wednesday's episode. It's definitely going to be amazing, especially where they're going to go with this as well. It's definitely going to be heart-wrenching, excitement, full of action, suspense, like it normally is, especially considering that mostly Marvel lore is like drama, you know, it's like dramatized superhero forms basically though. So, but either way, I'm looking forward to you guys. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Thank y'all so much for everything. Again, I'm actually going to do episode 10 for my review for the next one, so make sure you guys subscribe and make sure that you notify the bell so you can tune into every video that I drop. And I'm looking forward to episode 10, so I'll definitely do a review for that as well. So but yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it as far as like what's going to happen for Wednesday's episode for sure though. So, but man, it's so exciting to see it, especially just where they're going to go with this as well, though. So, but it's going to be amazing. I'm definitely looking forward to it. As far as the game goes, I'll drop the gameplay of Marvel vs. Capcom on the bottom of the description, so that way you guys can definitely be familiar about Onslaught, especially with him being a crucial role in the Marvel universe. So I'll drop the gameplay of Marvel vs. Capcom in the bottom of the description for you guys to check out. So we'll definitely take it from there. So, but I love you guys. Thank y'all so much for your support. It really means a lot to me. Be good to each other, love each other, and I love you guys. Thank you so much. Excelsior. I'll catch you guys in the next one.